The most difficult test of Rip and Beth's love to date. Dutton Ranch Season 1 episode. Complete analysis. The sixth episode is primarily a pivotal one. Rather than constant action, it concentrates on relationships collapsing under duress, covert motivations, and growing dangers that drive all of the main characters closer to confrontation. Here is a thorough explanation of everything that occurs and its implications. Episode 6's overarching theme. Three main concepts form the basis of this episode: under duress, love, Rip and Beth. Emotional instability and loss, Carter. Betrayal and power struggles inside the ranch system. The episode's whole plot revolves around trust being put to the test. The relationship between Rip and Beth is undergoing its most difficult emotional strain to date. What takes place? Rip is totally committed to establishing control and stability in ranch operations. Beth is drawn into risky business decisions and discussions. They start to communicate less emotionally and more strategically. Tiny arguments escalate into more serious conflicts over control and priorities. What it actually implies. Rip stands for tradition, loyalty, and defense. Beth is a symbol of strength, aspiration, and growth. They are still in love, as seen in episode 6, but, when it comes to survival and power, love is insufficient. This episode gives the impression that their relationship will either develop or eventually break down under duress. Carter's emotional collapse. Carter turns into one of the most significant emotional narratives. What takes place? He is still coping with trauma and anguish from the season's past occurrences. He starts to emotionally distance himself from Rip and Beth. He seeks solace and a sense of self outside the confines of their home. His actions become more erratic but also more autonomous. What it signifies. Carter finds himself torn between, desiring freedom and a family. He begins to wonder where he really belongs in episode 6, which sets up a significant clash in the future. It seems from this episode that their relationship will either grow or ultimately fail under pressure. Carter finds himself torn between, desiring freedom and a family. He begins to wonder where he really belongs in episode 6, which sets up a significant clash in the future. It seems from this episode that their relationship will either grow or ultimately fail under pressure. Carter's emotional breakdown. Carter becomes one of the most important emotional stories. What happens? He is still dealing with the pain and trauma from earlier events in the season. He starts to emotionally isolate himself from Rip and Beth. Outside of their house, he looks for comfort and a sense of identity. His behavior becomes more unpredictable but also more independent. What it means. Carter is caught between, wanting independence and a family. He begins to doubt where he really belongs in episode 6, which sets up a huge clash in the future. What it signifies. Beyond the ranch itself, Beth is constructing something more. However, the danger and foes rise with each move. Future friction in her personal life with Rip is a result of her achievement. Warning: growing danger in the background. The fact that danger is increasing beyond the main protagonist's control is strongly hinted at in episode 6. What is implied? Tension and violence are not always random. Events may still be influenced by certain people associated with previous wars. Hidden ambitions and betrayals are gradually coming to light. By the episode's conclusion, Rip is more vigilant than ever about dangers. Beth is more adept at high-stakes power maneuvers. Carter's feelings are waning. Both inside and outside, the ranch is growing unstable. Relationships are close rather than broken. Direct hit: last thoughts. Episode 6 is about pressure growing everywhere at once rather than a single major event. This is the episode in which every character begins to approach a breaking point from which they are unable to readily recover. A Cowboy Saint is the sixth episode of Dutton Ranch's first season. Although episode 6 is not as action-packed as episode 5, it does set up a number of significant issues that will probably blow out in the last 3 episodes. The narrative centers on Carter's emotional problems, Rob Will's perilous return, and Beth and Rip's developing relationship with the Jackson family. Carter strives to advance. Carter is still in shock following the horrific circumstances surrounding Dwight's death in episode 5. He spends more time with Orena Jackson and keeps pulling away from Beth and Rip. Over the course of the episode, their bond grows stronger. Carter turns to Orena as his main source of solace, but Beth and Rip are concerned about her increasing power since they think Carter might be moving away from them. Carter opens himself emotionally and shares how lost he feels on a fishing trip and other private chats. By the end of the episode, he is even more conflicted because the connection doesn't progress as he had hoped. The 10-petal ranch is taken over by Rip. Rip starts acclimating to his new position as foreman at Beulah Jackson's 10-petal ranch. In order to establish his authority among the ranch workers, he plans a cowboy competition and supervises ranch operations. Although he is respected by the majority of his co-workers, conflict still exists since many still view him as an outsider associated with the Dutton name. Additionally, Rip begins to notice discrepancies regarding the recent violence in the region and grows more wary that more serious issues may be developing. Beulah and Beth seek a significant business agreement. One of the main plots of the episode is on Beth and Beulah's journey to Chicago in order to establish a significant commercial alliance. With her strong negotiating style, Beth wins over investors and corporate executives and helps secure a potentially game-changing agreement with Frontier Hospitality. The Jackson Ranch operations' worth and influence could rise significantly as a result of the partnership. Viewers get to know Zane Nash, a self-made businessman, during these conversations. After learning about Beulah and Beth's plans for the ranch, Nash expresses interest in working with them. A strong new ally who might play a significant role later in the season is introduced by his entrance. Beulah is still testing Beth. Beulah spends a large portion of the episode discreetly researching Beth's past, despite the fact that she seems to trust Beth more than before. She probes Beth's past, including her relationship with Jamie Dutton and other incidents during her time in Yellowstone. Even while Beulah respects Beth's cunning and brutality, it's evident that she still has doubts about her. Professionally, their cooperation strengthens, but on a personal level, they continue to be rivals who keep an eye on each other's every move. Rob Will is back. Rob Will's covert return from rehab poses the episode's greatest threat. Everyone thought he was out of the picture, but he starts causing problems right away. Instead of attempting to start over, he pursues retribution on those he feels have deceived him. His return immediately raises the stakes for everyone associated with the Jackson property and satisfies the warning hinted at the end of episode 5. Chet seeks retribution. Rob Will manipulates and encourages former ranch hand Chet, who develops an obsession with exacting revenge. After being forced out of ranch life, Chet feels deceived and takes up arms to confront Joaquin Jackson. Chet shoots Joaquin in the hand during the altercation. The incident quickly gets out of hand. Miguel steps in and shoots Chet to death before he can do any more harm. One of the most startling parts of the program is the unexpected death. Rip addresses the violence. Rip rushes to Joaquin's aid after hearing about the incident. In addition to getting Joaquin medical care, he starts figuring out how Rob Will might be involved in the increasing violence. Rip understands that something far more hazardous is emerging and that the threat goes beyond a single irate ranch hand. Rip's conviction that the ranch is on the verge of open warfare grows throughout the episode. Episode 6 is essentially a setup and character-building episode. It would seem slow if you were expecting big shootouts or significant turns every 10 minutes. However, nearly every scene sets the stage for episodes 7 to 9. Beth and Beulah are playing a dangerous game. One of the most fascinating scenes is the Chicago business trip. On the surface, Beth and Beulah are becoming partners. They secure a major deal and impress entrepreneur Zane Nash. The deal could transform 10-petal into something much larger than a traditional ranch. But underneath the business success, Beulah keeps testing Beth. She asks questions about Beth's past and subtly probes old wounds involving the Dutton family. Beth immediately recognizes what Beulah is doing. Neither woman fully trusts the other. The relationship feels less like friendship and more like, I respect you, but I'm watching you. That's why their scenes have so much tension. Rip is becoming the bridge between two families. Rip spends most of the episode working at 10-petal. The cowboy competitions and branding scenes might look like filler, but they're showing something important. Rip is slowly earning the respect of the Jackson Ranch hands. Unlike Beth, who wins people over through intimidation and business skill, Rip wins people over through work. By the end of the episode, many of the cowboys who initially viewed him as an outsider are beginning to follow his lead. The Joaquin shooting explained this as the biggest event of the episode. Chet corners Joaquin and unloads months of frustration. When Joaquin refuses to back down, Chet shoots him in the hand. What's interesting is that Joaquin never looks surprised. He almost seems to expect this kind of violence. Before things can escalate further, Miguel shoots and kills Chet. The scene tells us a lot. The Jackson family is prepared for violence. Miguel is willing to kill to protect them. Chet was never the mastermind. Rob Will is still the bigger threat. Rip's questioning of Joaquin. Following the filming is one of the most underappreciated scenes. Rip starts asking Joaquin about the unexplained body that was dumped on his property earlier in the season when they are taking him for treatment. Joaquin is not directly threatened by Rip. He simply exerts pressure in a composed manner. This is a traditional Rip Wheeler. Convinced that he is still missing some important details, Rip leaves. In essence, the last scenes serve as warning signs. Carter's distance from Beth and Rip is growing. Rob Will is unrestricted. The Jackson family has secrets to conceal. Beth's bond with Beulah is growing stronger. Rip is starting to believe that the current bloodshed is part of a bigger scheme. Because it serves as a springboard for the next 3 episodes, the episode doesn't conclude on a suspenseful note. Think of episode 6 as the moment where all the chess pieces are moved into position before the war starts. My prediction for episode 7 based on where episode 6 leaves off, Rob Will becomes much more active, Carter's secret about Dwight finally comes out, and Rip discovers that the Jackson family's problems run much deeper than he's been told. The last stretch of the season is set up in episode 6, a slower, character-focused chapter. Even though there isn't as much action as in earlier episodes, a number of significant plotlines advance. 10 Petal Ranch is where Rip settles. Rip keeps working at the 10 Petal Ranch and gradually gains the cowboys' respect. He demonstrates his effectiveness as a leader by uniting once adversaries and bolstering the ranch business. The last stretch of the season is set up in episode 6, a slower, character-focused chapter. Even though there isn't as much action as in earlier episodes, a number of significant plotlines advance. In order to acquire a significant business collaboration, Beth travels with Beulah Jackson. She effectively promotes the ranch's future and contributes to the creation of a new revenue prospect for 10 Petal with her signature confidence and commercial acumen. Additionally, the journey strengthens Beth's complex bond with Beulah. After the recent events, Carter is still having emotional difficulties. He tells Orina he loves her while they are out on the town. Carter is dissatisfied and further perplexed about his future when Orina candidly replies that they are too young to truly comprehend love. The bond between Beulah and Everett is still growing. After spending time together, Everett consents to go with her to the ranch's impending 190th anniversary party, indicating that their romance is getting serious. The most dramatic scene in the show is when Chet confronts Joaquin brandishing a gun because he is upset over losing his job and was tricked by Rob Will. Before Miguel steps in and murders Chet, he shoots Joaquin in the hand. Rob Will's influence has become hazardous, as seen by this episode's big death. Joaquin is questioned by Rip over the unexplained dead body discovered earlier in the season following the shooting. Rip gains a better understanding of the Jackson family conspiracy when Joaquin discloses that Wes was involved in Chet and Rob Will's illegal operations. Perhaps the most significant scene is the last one. Beulah quietly mentions Jamie Dutton, the brother Beth killed in the Yellowstone finale, as they celebrate their good business agreement. When Beth realizes Beulah might know more about her history than she should, she instantly becomes aloof and protective. Beulah has the potential to be either Beth's greatest ally or her most formidable adversary, according to the scene. The gunshot, Chet's passing, and Beulah's remarks about Jamie make episode 6 one of the season's most crucial setup episodes, even though it focuses more on creating suspense than providing action.